Hi everyone and welcome back to Exon Academy. In this video, we'll be walking through everything you need to know for Section 1 of the Cambridge A-Levels Business Syllabus, covering every single topic in a way that's simple, structured, and exam-focused. Let's begin. We begin with subtopic 1, Enterprise. On this slide, we define business activity as bringing together resources to make goods or services that customers want. Every company, from a small corner cafe to a large factory, combines four main resources: land, labor, capital, and enterprise to meet real needs. Most companies aim to make a profit. For instance, when Apple releases a new iPhone, it tries to earn as much money as possible over its costs. But profit isn't always the only goal. NBP, for example, puts its earnings back into small loans that help lift people out of poverty. And Patagonia uses part of its sales to protect the environment and make products from recycled materials. Businesses also vary in size. A local grocery store may serve just its neighborhood, while a brand like Nike sells shoes in more than 170 countries, tailoring each campaign to local tastes. Finally, think about the value chain. Raw materials come in as inputs, they are transformed, like cotton being woven, and then sent out as finished products to shops or customers. After that, good after sales service, such as honoring warranties, keeps people happy and coming back for more, encouraging repeat business. This slide lists the four factors of production essential to every single enterprise. The first is land, which includes all natural resources, from fertile farmland to underground mineral deposits. Second, labor refers to every form of human effort. Unskilled roles like factory operatives and skilled professions like engineers or surgeons. The third is capital, meaning both the money needed to purchase resources and the man made assets like machines, vehicles, and IT systems that aid production. Fourth is enterprise, which refers to the entrepreneurial function, which consists of the individual or team that organizes these other factors, makes strategic decisions, and accepts the financial risk if the venture fails. They can be best remembered with the acronym LLCE, with the first L standing for land, the second denoting labor, the C representing capital, and the final E symbolizing enterprise that utilizes the LLC to create a business. A key managerial challenge is optimizing this mix. For instance, a lean manufacturing approach might reduce reliance on high cost machinery, instead of training workers to perform multiple tasks, thereby increasing flexibility and reducing idle time. Here we focus on land, meaning all natural resources used by a business. Resources are renewable, like forest timber or a tea plantation that regrows each harvest, and non renewable, such as crude oil in an oil well that once extracted cannot be replaced. Because these inputs are finite, they exhibit scarcity, which gives them economic value. For example, a beachfront property often commands premium rent simply due to the limited availability of it. Moreover, the location of resources also affects cost structures. Sourcing bulk commodities close to ports reduces haulage expenses significantly, whereas remote sites must factor in higher transport and logistic costs. On the other hand, labor comprises of all human effort applied in production, both mental and physical. Unlike stockpiled raw materials, labor is perishable. You can't bank unused labor hours for tomorrow. If staff hours go unutilized, that opportunity is lost. That's why businesses often engage in peak season hires, such as additional retail staff during Eid to handle higher footfall. Unskilled roles, like warehouse pickers, require minimal formal training, whereas skilled professions, such as chartered accountants, demand years of education and certification. Companies also invest in training programs, such as coding boot camps for entry level developers to upgrade their workforce and boost productivity over the long term. Capital covers all man made assets that aid production, like factory buildings, CNC machines, delivery vehicles, and IT infrastructure like servers. We distinguish consumer goods, such as a personal laptop, from capital goods, like the data center servers that host millions of user accounts. Acquiring capital assets typically involves significant investment, funded through bank loans,
leasing arrangements, or retained profits. Once in use, these assets wear out over time. Businesses record depreciation, for example, spreading the cost of a delivery truck over its estimated 5-year lifespan to accurately reflect declining value in their financial statements. On the flip side, the enterprise factor is embodied by the entrepreneur. The person or team that provides the vision, takes on risk, makes the critical decisions, and drives innovation. Two examples illustrate this. Steve Jobs, whose vision for a touchscreen smartphone launched the iPhone and redefined mobile computing, and Malala Yousafzai, who leveraged her platform to establish the Malala Fund, channeling resources into global girls' education. Entrepreneurs spot market gaps. For instance, the lack of convenient app based ride hailing and then marshal land, labor, and capital LLC to fill them. They also absorb losses if the venture fails, making their role both high reward and high risk.
Added value shows how much extra worth a business creates by turning raw materials into final products or services. You calculate it by subtracting the cost of materials from the selling price. For example, if a coffee shop if a coffee shop buys beans for $2 and sells a latte for $5, the shop's added value is $3 per cup. Companies increase added value in three main ways: design, service, and branding. Design means giving products a special look or feel. Think of Tiffany's blue box that makes the gift feel extra special. Service means caring for customers beyond the sale, like offering free setup or long warranties. And branding means using a strong name. Rolex watches sell for high prices because of their brand reputation. Higher added value helps businesses cover the fixed costs and earn better profits. Opportunity cost is what you give up when you choose one thing over another. If a student spends $1,000 on a top laptop, that same money cannot buy a premium smartphone anymore. In business, investing 5 million in a new factory means you can't use that same money for research and development that might create a breakthrough. Governments face this too. Funds used to build highways can't go towards schools. Thinking about opportunity cost helps leaders decide where their money will do the most good overall. Many businesses fail for internal reasons. When cash flow runs short and a company can't pay suppliers, wages, or rent, operations grind to a screeching halt and employees leave. Poor management can cause problems when founders excel in one area but struggle with planning, delegation, or communication. Teams get confused and deadlines slip. Bad record keeping hides problems like overstated profits or missed taxes. For example, family businesses sometimes break apart after co-founders fight, and underfunded startups often simply run out of money. However, external forces can also play a massive role. Sudden tax increases, new import rules, or changing regulations can raise costs overnight. Evolving technology can also make products obsolete. An example can be of Kodak. Kodak's film business collapsed when digital cameras took off and they failed to innovate in time. Fierce competition can force prices so low that even strong brands lose money. And when too many similar shops open in one area, no one gets enough customers to stay profitable. An entrepreneur is the driving force behind new businesses. Entrepreneurs spot opportunities like the convenience of calling a car through an app and bring resources together to fill a need. They face risks with their own money and reputation, but also reap massive rewards if they succeed. Key entrepreneurial traits include creativity to find new ideas, leadership to rally teams, confidence to push through setbacks, and the willingness to invest personal savings. Entrepreneurs create jobs, spark new markets, and drive economic growth. Now, coming towards entrepreneurs, inside established companies, entrepreneurs act like entrepreneurs but without risking personal funds. Firms encourage entrepreneurs through projects like Google's 20% time, where employees spend a day each week on passion projects, leading to products like Gmail. Other companies set up internal venture funds or suggestion programs. Entrepreneurship taps employee creativity, improves job satisfaction, and often leads to new products or process improvements. A business plan is your detailed roadmap. It usually has 6 parts. First, an executive summary that highlights your vision and main goals. This is often the first section investors read. Second, a market analysis that examines potential customers, competitors, and industry trends. Third, a marketing strategy that explains how you'll position your product, set prices, and promote your brand. Fourth, an operations plan that outlines your locations, suppliers, production steps, and delivery methods. Fifth, a description of your management structure, introducing key team members and how decisions get made. Fifth, a description of your management structure, introducing key team members and how decisions get made. Finally, financial forecasts show projected cash flow, break even points, and profit estimates. A solid plan keeps you on track, helps you make smart decisions, and attracts investors.
Subtopic 2: Business Structure.
In this slide, we cover how economies break down into four parts. The primary sector involves taking raw materials straight from nature. Examples include farmers growing crops, miners digging minerals, and fishers catching fish. The secondary sector transforms those raw materials into products, like factories weaving fabric or assembling cars. The tertiary sector provides services, such as stores selling goods, banks handling money, schools teaching students, and hospitals treating patients. The quaternary sector handles knowledge work. Examples include software developers writing code, researchers in labs discovering new treatments, and consultants analyzing data. These sectors, however, do depend on one another. A car factory needs steel from mines, hires mechanics and logistics firms, and then invests in research to improve future models. The primary sector is all about nature's resources, like farming, fishing, forestry, and mining. These activities depend heavily on weather, seasons, and resource availability. Crops can fall if rain doesn't come. Fish stocks can be overfished, and minerals eventually do run out. People who work in this sector also face the ups and downs of global commodity prices, which change with supply, demand, and exchange rates. For example, coffee farmers can struggle when world prices drop, and timber companies must replant forests and follow environmental rules. The secondary sector turns raw materials into everyday goods. Factories use different methods to achieve that. Job production for unique, one-off items like custom furniture, batch production for medium runs like seasonal clothing, and flow or mass production for large volumes such as smartphones or canned drinks. Building products in big quantities lowers the cost per item by spreading fixed expenses, like factory buildings, machines, and management over many units. This is also known as economies of scale. The tertiary sector covers services, like retail shops, hotels, restaurants, banks, schools, and healthcare providers. It relies on people's skill and customer interaction. The quaternary sector covers knowledge and information services, like companies offering IT solutions, research and development labs, management consultancies, and data analytics firms. As nations grow richer, they tend to shift from farming and manufacturing towards these service and knowledge industries, reflecting higher consumer demands and advanced skill needs. This slide explains who runs and owns businesses. The private sector is owned by individuals or shareholders and is driven by profit. Think Amazon or Toyota. The public sector is government owned and focuses on public needs like education, roads, or national health services. Most countries have a mixed economy where both private companies and public organizations work together. Governments step in where markets fail, providing public hospitals or subsidized utilities, while private firms drive most innovation and efficiency. First, a sole trader is one person who owns and runs the business alone. They keep all the profits but also face unlimited liability, meaning personal assets are on the line if the business can't pay its debts. Many small shops and freelancers operate this way, whereas a partnership has 2 to 20 people who pool money and share profits. Like sole traders, partners usually have unlimited liability unless they form a limited liability partnership. Trust and clear agreements are essential for sharing profits, making decisions, and handling exits or disputes. Private limited companies and public limited companies both offer limited liability, protecting owners from personal loss beyond their investment. Limited companies keep shares private, often within families or small groups, giving them more control and less regulations, while PLCs, public limited companies, sell shares on stock markets, which raises larger sums but brings stricter rules, such as audited financial reports and annual general meetings. Examples include Coca-Cola on the NYSE or Volkswagen on the Frankfurt Exchange. Finally, cooperatives are member-owned and democratically run, with profits shared or reinvested. They're common in agriculture or credit unions. Franchises let entrepreneurs run a proven brand and system. McDonald's, Subway, and other chains follow this model. Joint ventures team up two or more firms for a single project, sharing costs and risks. An example can be of Sony and Ericsson, which once teamed up to build mobile phones. On the other hand, social enterprises focus first on social or environmental missions, using any profits to further that cause. Examples include fair trade coffee companies or charities running small businesses. Subtopic 3: Size of business. Let's now look at how we measure the size of a business. There's no single way to do it. We usually use a combination of different indicators. The first is the number of employees. This gives us a basic idea of how many people work at a company. For example, Spotify has close to 10,000 employees globally, while a small neighborhood cafe might only need 10 people to run. Next, we have revenue, also called turnover. This is the total income a business earns from sales before any costs are deducted. For instance, Starbucks generates around 36 billion in annual revenue, while a small independent coffee shop might only make $200,000 in a year. Another measure is capital employed, which shows how much long-term money is being used in the business. This includes both the owner's investment and borrowed funds. Tesla, for example, has invested tens of billions into its gigafactories around the world. We also look at market share, which shows how much of the total sales in an industry a company controls. For example, McDonald's holds about 7% of the global fast food market, which highlights its strong position in that industry. Lastly, there's market capitalization or market cap. This is calculated by multiplying the company's share price by the number of shares it has issued. Apple's market cap recently crossed $2 trillion, while Coca-Cola sit around 250 billion. These five measures together give us a complete picture of how large and powerful a business really is. Small businesses tend to have some clear features that set them apart from larger firms. One key trait is that they're often owner managed. This means the owner usually handles most of the daily operations themselves. Imagine someone running a small bakery. This person could be baking the bread, serving customers, managing the cash register, and even handling accounting all on their own. They also usually serve local or niche markets. Instead of trying to sell to a huge audience, they might focus on one neighborhood or a specific group of customers. A great example could be a craft brewery that only produces a few hundred barrels a year and sells them locally. The structure of small businesses tend to be informal and flat, meaning there are very few layers of management. Because of this, communication is direct and decisions can be made quickly. For example, if a cafe owner notices demand for home delivery, they might start offering it the very next day without needing any complex approvals. But small businesses also have limited resources. Getting loans from banks can be tough, especially without collateral. They also may not have any specialized employees, so the owner often has to wear many hats. Now, let's talk about the strengths of small businesses and why many customers and communities value them. One of the biggest advantages is their personalized customer service. The small businesses often build close relationships with customers. For example, a local barber might remember your name, your usual haircut, and even ask about your family, creating a sense of loyalty and comfort that big chains can't easily match. They also have lower overhead costs. Small shops often rent small spaces and hire fewer employees, which keeps expenses like rent and salaries lower than in large corporations. Another huge benefit is their ability to focus on niche markets. They can offer specialized, high-quality products that aren't mass-produced. For example, a shop selling handmade single-origin chocolate can charge more per bar than a mass-market candy brand because of their product's uniqueness and quality. Small businesses also tend to be faster at making changes or improvements. A small tech startup can launch new features or updates to an app every single week, whereas a big company might take months just to approve one change. And finally, they usually have strong ties to the local community. Many small businesses sponsor school events, donate to local causes, or simply provide a place where people in the neighborhood feel welcomed and connected. Of course, small businesses also do face challenges that can make survival and growth more difficult. One of the biggest issues is limited access to finance. Banks may hesitate to lend money to a small business without a strong credit history or valuable assets to offer as security. For example, a small cafe that's doing well might still be denied a loan to open a second location, simply because it doesn't have enough collateral. They also can't benefit from economies of scale. That means they end up paying more per unit when buying supplies like packaging or ingredients, unlike big companies that can buy in bulk and get discounts. Small businesses are also more vulnerable to shocks. A slow season with fewer customers or the loss of one key employee can have a major impact. For example, if a small design firm loses its only graphic designer, it may not be able to complete projects on time. Many small business owners face skill gaps, especially in areas like accounting, digital marketing, or employment law. Without proper knowledge in these areas, they might make mistakes that cost them time and money. Finally, scaling up. Turning one successful outlet into a chain requires more structure, trained staff, new systems, and large investments. This step can be especially hard for small businesses that are used to running things informally. Family businesses have a unique setup. In these companies, ownership and often management stay within the same family. For example, the Ford Motor Company, founded by Henry Ford, still has family members involved in leadership. They tend to have a long term view, aiming to pass the business on to the next generation rather than just chasing short term profits. Many of these businesses care deeply about legacy and values, building a brand reputation based on trust and stability. Because family members often know each other well and share a strong commitment, decision making can be quick. They don't always need formal meetings or approval chains to get things done, and they're often more patient with money, reinvesting profits back into the business rather than expecting fast returns. But there are also some disadvantages. Disagreements over the direction of the business or future plans can cause serious family tension. Without clear roles and fair processes, conflicts can grow and affect day to day operations. There's also the risk of nepotism, where less qualified family members are put into important roles simply because of their family name. This can lower efficiency and hurt morale among non family employees. Finally, mixing family and business finances can lead to blurred lines, making it hard to track money properly or maintain professional standards. That's why many family businesses put clear succession plans and governance systems in place to avoid problems and keep everything running smoothly. Now, moving on to subtopic 4, business objectives. Let's now look at the different goals that businesses often set for themselves. One of the most common is profit maximization. This means making as much money as possible after covering all costs. A company like Walmart closely monitors the performance of each store, because even a small increase in sales across thousands of outlets can lead to a huge rise in total profits. However, some businesses follow a different approach called profit satisficing. This is where they aim for a decent level of profit rather than trying to get the maximum. For example, a family run cafe might decide not to open for long hours or expand to new locations simply because the owners value work life balance more than making extra money. Another major goal is growth, whether it's in revenue, customer base, or physical presence. Amazon is a great example of this. It constantly invests in new warehouses and delivery networks to reach more customers and make deliveries faster. Market share is also important. This measures a company's sales compared to the total sales in its industry. Coca-Cola, for instance, controls nearly 43% of the global carbonated drinks market. That tells you how dominant and trusted the brand is. In tough times, some businesses often focus on survival, just staying in operation and breaking even. This is especially true for small shops or startups trying to get through their first year or a slow season. For public companies, a key focus is often on shareholder value. This means making sure that shareholders are happy through dividends, rising share prices, and stock buybacks. Apple, for example, has returned over $100 billion to its shareholders in recent years. Lastly, we have corporate social responsibility, or CSR. These are goals focused on doing good, like helping communities, protecting the environment, or improving working conditions, alongside making profits. We'll go deeper into CSR in the next slide. To stay focused and effective, businesses often use the S.M.A.R.T framework to set their goals. Let's quickly break that down. S stands for specific. A clear goal like increase website sales by 20% is more useful than a vague goal like do better online. M is for measurable. You need to track your progress using actual numbers like sales figures or customer ratings. The letter A stands for achievable. Goals should challenge the team, but still be realistic. If the target is too far out of reach, people may give up before they start. The letter R means relevant. Every goal should connect directly to your overall business strategy. If your company focuses on cost leadership, then setting goals around innovation might not be a good fit. And the letter T is for time bound. Goals should have a clear deadline, like by the end of the quarter or before the product launch. Now, let's come back to CSR, corporate social responsibility. This is when a business voluntarily sets goals to help society or protect the planet, even if those goals don't necessarily bring quick profits. For example, Unilever has promised to cut its environmental impact by half by 2030. That's a big CSR goal that matches its brand image. Another example is Patagonia. They use recycled materials in their clothing and regularly audit their supply chains to make sure that workers are treated fairly. These actions not only build a strong ethical reputation, they also make customers and employees feel proud to support the brand. Businesses don't just set goals, they also plan how to reach them. This slide explains the clear 4-step planning structure that most companies use: mission, objectives, strategy, and tactics. The mission statement sits at the top. It's the big picture purpose of the business. Tesla's mission is a great example. And I quote, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. It's bold, inspiring, and long term. From the mission, the company sets objectives. These are specific, measurable goals like launch 5 new electric vehicle models by 2026. To reach those objectives, the business then builds a strategy. This is a big picture plan. For Tesla, that might mean investing $2 billion in battery research over the next 5 years. Finally, the company takes action through tactics. These are the smaller, short-term steps that help implement the strategy. That include launching social media campaigns, building test drive programs, or running ads in key regions. Each level supports the next. When a company gets this chain right, everything it does, from advertising to hiring, fits together and supports its overall mission. As a business grows and changes, its goals usually change too. When a company is just starting out, its main goal is often survival. That means managing cash carefully, building a customer base, and just keeping the business going. Netflix, for example, wasn't profitable in its early days. It was only focused on getting people to try DVD subscriptions. In the growth stage, businesses want to expand. They might open new branches, invest in advertising, or launch in new cities. Uber is a good example. It entered city after city quickly to grab market share and build a global presence. When a business reaches maturity, the focus often shifts to efficiency and stability. It's no longer about growing fast, it's about doing things better and smarter. Coca-Cola, for instance, focuses on refining its supply chain and protecting its global brand image. Eventually, if a company starts to decline, it may try to reinvent itself. Nokia used to dominate the mobile phone market, but after losing ground to smartphones, it pivoted to telecom infrastructure to stay relevant. So it's clear, business objectives must match the company's current stage. Sticking to outdated goals can lead to wasted resources or missed opportunities. Setting the right objectives is important, but making sure everyone understands them is just as critical. Good communication turns goals into real action. Inside the company, this could mean holding team meetings, sending regular updates by email, or using dashboards that show progress in real time. These tools help every department: marketing, finance, operations, they all stay on the same page. While outside the company, businesses explain their goals through investor reports, public announcements, or CSR updates. This keeps shareholders, regulators, and the public informed and builds trust. Some best practices include using simple, clear language so no one is confused about what the goal is. Visual tools like graphs, charts, and progress bars can help teams stay motivated and focused. Finally, businesses should create feedback loops, like employee surveys or suggestion forms, so they can catch problems early and improve communication where needed. When people at every level understand what the business is aiming for, they're more likely to contribute effectively. And finally, subtopic 5: stakeholders in a business. A stakeholder is anyone who's affected by a business or can affect what it does. Some stakeholders are inside the company while others are outside, but both groups are equally as important. Internal stakeholders include employees who care about getting paid fairly, job security, and good working conditions, managers who want to hit targets, earn bonuses, and grow their careers, and owners or shareholders who want rising profits, increasing share prices, and regular dividends. On the other hand, we have external stakeholders who are people or groups outside the company, such as customers who want good products, fair prices, and reliable service, suppliers who want long-term contracts and to be paid on time, lenders like banks who expect loans to be repaid on schedule, governments who want businesses to follow laws, pay taxes, and support the economy through jobs. local communities who care about how the businesses affect their area through jobs, traffic, or pollution, and pressure groups who try to push businesses to be more ethical or eco friendly, like Greenpeace campaigning for cleaner energy. Understanding who your stakeholders are and what they care about is essential for building trust and running a business responsibly. Each stakeholder group has its own goals, and these goals can be very different. Employees want secure jobs, fair pay, safe working conditions, and chances to grow their skills, whereas shareholders want their investment to grow through rising stock prices and regular dividends. Customers expect good value, high quality, and reliable service, and they'll go elsewhere if they don't get it. Suppliers look for stable contracts and prompt payments so they can plan their own businesses. The local community wants jobs and opportunities, but they also care about noise, traffic, and pollution. Governments want businesses to follow the rules, pay their taxes, and help the economy by creating employment. And pressure groups want to hold businesses accountable for their impact, pushing for better treatment of workers, fair sourcing, or environmental protection. Managing all of these expectations is tough, but it's necessary for long term success and a positive reputation. Sometimes, what one group of stakeholder wants is the exact opposite of what another group needs. This is known as stakeholder conflict. Shareholders and employees may clash. Shareholders want higher profits, which might mean cutting wages or reducing staff, something employees obviously won't support. Customers and shareholders can also be at odds. Raising prices may increase profits, but it can also lead to fewer sales and angry customers. Managers and the local community might not agree. A manager may want to build a bigger warehouse to grow operations, but neighbors may protest because of increased noise or traffic. Suppliers and the business may fall out if the company delays payments to improve its cash flow, leaving suppliers struggling to stay afloat. There is no one size fits all solution to all of these problems. But good businesses try to find compromises, negotiate fairly, and prioritize based on which stakeholders are most affected or most powerful. Many companies use stakeholder mapping to understand who they need to listen to most carefully when making big decisions. Finally, let's look at one of the biggest debates in business ethics. Should companies serve only their shareholders, or should they also consider all stakeholders? In the shareholder model, a company's main goal is to maximize returns for its owners. That means focusing on profits, rising share prices, and big dividends. This model is still very common, especially in large public companies. The stakeholder model, on the other hand, argues that businesses have a responsibility to everyone they affect, not just investors. That includes employees, customers, communities, and even the environment. In recent years, more and more companies are moving towards the stakeholder model. For example, Microsoft has committed to becoming carbon negative by 2030 and has invested heavily in education programs for underserved communities. These actions show that a business can be both successful and socially responsible. Even though the shareholder model is still dominant in many places, the shift towards stakeholder thinking is growing, driven by environmental concerns, ethical investing, and the demand for greater accountability. This debate isn't just theoretical, it shapes how businesses make decisions, set priorities, and respond to public pressure.
And that wraps up section 1, Business and its Environment. We covered what businesses do, how they're structured, and what drives their success or failure, and how they're set up and communicate objectives. We also explored the roles of entrepreneurs, types of ownership, and how businesses manage relationships with different stakeholders, among other things. If this video helped you understand the topic better, give it a like, subscribe for more, and leave your questions in the comments. Thank you for watching, and as always, good luck for your exams.